I'm sorry, Broken Ronin. What do you mean by almost? What's up, guys? That guy with a reaction here. And fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And here we are to do a breakdown / live reaction review and analysis of Broken Ronin's Sukuna almost solos Demon Slayer. And I'm very intrigued. Not only is this just a 14-minute video in comparison to the last Broken Ronin video I reviewed, which was about 20 minutes and 35 seconds long, this one is gonna be very intriguing because it's the strongest character in Jujutsu Kaisen against an entire universe. One that is commonly agreed, or not necessarily argued, but really commonly agreed to be relatively weak. So I'm actually very interested to see why it's an almost and not an absolutely. But with that being the case, before I get into any of what I'm about to get into, the link to the original video and to Broken Ronin's channel will be in the description down below. Go check him out. He's a fantastic content creator who covers Demon Slayer, JJK, Blue Lock, Sakamoto Days, more, Kagurabachi, but like he covers a whole bunch. Alright? If you want gas, go to Broken Ronin. I don't know how you found me and didn't find Broken Ronin. Like, be subscribed. I'm subscribed. He's a fantastic content creator. But with that being the case, that'll be in the description down below. I want to link to the main channel. That got the pencil. So, bada bing, bada boom. But with that being the case, let me talk about Sukuna versus Demon Slayer. So, obviously, the one, and I do mean one. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this figure right here. The one singular issue that Sukuna arguably has when you put him up against Demon Slayer is the speed. In terms of AP, in terms of durability, heck, depending on how you look at it, mostly in terms of even hacks, Sukuna is kind of the worst sort of encounter the Demon Slayer universe could run into. Mainly because even arguments about domains not working on beings without cursed energy does not matter, because Sukuna's dismantle AP is so high relative to everyone in Demon Slayer that they'd get one shot anyway. And for all the demons who would survive on a level in Shrine, Furnace is waiting to literally atomize them. And once again, Furnace is so high AP wise, it should literally one-shot everybody. Heck, I just watched the video that came after this, and Jogo apparently has country level calcs. All I heard from that man was city level 4. And I even heard, that's the highest I kind of put JJK most of the time, at city level. But there are arguments to get it higher. And if there's any arguments to get it higher, oh, it's Ryomen Sukuna who gets those arguments. So, notably, if you were to ask me, if I were to pick up Ryomen Sukuna, throw him into the Demon Slayer universe, and say, hey Sukuna, solo the entire thing. First, he'd punch me in the mouth for daring to command him. And second, he'd solo the entire thing with one domain expansion. However, if I had to hazard a guess, because I think stats-wise, in terms of AP, Dur, and even hacks, Sukuna should clear a majority of the verse, and he should be immune to poison. The only things that Demon Slayer has is a possible speed advantage, because unless you start doing some EM wave stuff or some lightning stuff, it's kind of weird to get Sukuna up into those lightning timer tiers that a lot of the Demon Slayer universe would be, especially its top tiers and high tiers and god tiers. Like a Yoriichi is unbelievably fast, but big what about cheeks. The only way that Sukuna loses is if he loses the same way he lost in the main manga. Because he's kinda silly, he's kinda goofy, and he's kinda stupid. If Sukuna lets himself get fished, he gets fished. If Sukuna does not immediately open domain, he's literally, like, the big issue he's going to run into is that they probably wouldn't do much damage to him, but he would essentially be in a malevolent shrine all his own. Think about the many different, even if we're just counting all the major characters, we have 6 upper moons who should all at least be comparable to Sukuna in speed, but not comparable to an AP. So there's going to be 6 creatures nicking at him with damages that can actually, like, at least tickle his toes a little bit. Some of those, including hacks like Gyoko. Gyoko could fish Sukuna if he gets a punch on him in his true forms. Like, there's that as well. So there's 6 of those characters. Then you have the 9 Hashira. None of their poison matters, but they could all just tickle Sukuna continuously. And they have the speed more than enough to do so. And Yoriichi on top of that, more speed to tickle. Muzan, once again, lashes. I don't think Muzan's Blood Demon Arts would do anything. I don't think he has the AP. But more tickle, like, notably, they just keep tickling him. And if he gets tickled so much, and they keep holding his arms back that he can't domain, he'll lose simply because the entire universe has enough stamina to wear him down eventually, and he won't be able to domain. Except the only issue with that is that Sukuna doesn't even, now think about it, he doesn't even need a domain, because he can do motionless dismantles. Meaning he could just launch out a bunch of dismantles, and that's immediately bisecting everyone around. How on earth does he lose? He has to be stupid. He has to be an idiot. That's the only way. Like, now, I got 14 minutes of Broken Ronin to him to try to convince you that's an almost. Because there's no reason Sukuna should lose. Because the main win con you get from Demon Slayer, even against versus that have, like, a massive AP advantage, and especially all relative in speed, but let's say not relative in speed, will give the other versus massive AP, massive bulk advantage. It's the poison, right? Like, Muzan has really good poison hacks. Obviously, a lot of the upper moons, like Yutaro, have poison hacks and stuff like that. But In this case, Sukuna is said to be immune to poisons. You could argue that maybe Demon Slayer poison scales higher, which is like possible, but we have essentially what Muzan does through the blood manipulation users, and he's immune to that too. So like, that's the only thing. Because and the fish. Like if Sukuna gets fish, he gets fished. Like he doesn't have any resistance to literal transmutation, as far as we know. I mean, actually though, you can make an argument. Like you could argue he may actually be at least somewhat resistant to transmutation because of his interaction with Mahito. But then again, that was like a soul versus soul manipulation thing. Gyoko doesn't attack your soul; he just fishes you. So like Gyoko may be the secret savior of Demon Slayer. They all need to except for Gyoko. Because ultimately Kokoshi was a stat box who wouldn't do any damage to Sukuna. Aka's a stat box who'd be able to react to Sukuna, wouldn't be able to do any damage to Sukuna. Doma's a stat box who'd be able to react to Sukuna, wouldn't be able to do anything to Sukuna. Hantenka's a stat box who wouldn't be able to do anything to Sukuna. Yutar and Daki are stat boxes who wouldn't be able to do anything to Sukuna. They have poison axe, but poison doesn't matter against Sukuna. All the Hashira are stat boxes who do nothing to Sukuna. They wouldn't be able to tickle him. Or like once again, unless you do some gooning and you really lowball Sukuna, notably because of the next video or the video that comes after this one I already reacted to. I reacted and it should have dropped last week. I think I'm gonna literally record and then just sequence drop these, so I have at least a little bit of a narrative between the videos and don't have more information one information less. From what I've seen, Broken Ronin at least thinks the upper moon scale to around town level, and like unless you do some real crazy goon scaling for Muzan, I think like the highest calc I've seen for it maybe, and notably the highest calc I've seen for his town, but I've seen like city level arguments here and there. Like that's the highest you can really get the Hashira and Demon Slayer universe as a whole in terms of AP. And you can get Sukuna way higher than that. Just on his own, with like his own feats. You can really get him to city and beyond. Like, even like, I've seen counts for like mountain level, island level stuff. And there's like the extreme upscales of Doom and Despair that Sukuna would obviously scale to as the strongest in the verse. Well, not obviously scale to, like the Black Hole and the Perfect Spirit. Those are different things. But essentially, Sukuna should be levels upon levels upon levels above in terms of durability. And he has the perfect counter to everyone by literally, like, all the humans die. The humans are not really a factor in this one. Unfortunately, it really is the demons that would give Sukuna any sort of trouble at all because of their regen. Because a character like Tanjiro, a character like Yoriichi, a character like Rengoku, a character like Tengen, all these characters get diffed by motionless dismantles. And literally, they will not be able to perceive it. It'll come out of Sukuna without him even moving, and they all die. And Sukuna has been shown to use motionless dismantles when he feels like it. The big reason why I think it's an almost is because Sukuna is stupid and would not do that. Right? This is me taking Sukuna's abilities, shoving a control up his butt, and being really, really optimal with him. If Sukuna's in character, he may lose to being fished, or he may lose, like, stamina. Like, he may do something stupid. Essentially, Sukuna, but even then, like, if he, it really depends on where Ronin puts the AP of Demon Slayer at. And where he puts Sukuna's speed relative to Demon Slayer. Because if there's any relativity in the speed department, it's over. Like, even slight relativity. Like, say we use the Hakari feat, then the Maki feat, and we just go from there, it should be over. Because highest you get Demon Slayer is that lightning stuff. And then if Sukuna's even at all relative, he's going to notice they can at least tickle him a little bit, and then he's going to domain. Right? He's stupid, but he's not that stupid. And even if he is stupid, and he domains, but he doesn't catch everybody, somehow, he does the full 200-meter domain, but somehow people ran away in time, like say, Akaza's compass reacts in time, they still wouldn't be able to do enough damage to Sukuna, even while he's recovering his technique. And that's if he doesn't instantly recover his technique with RCT, like he'd be able to do. And he'd be able to do that up to what, like 5 times? Just like Gojo did? So like, I don't know. I'm now very interested to see why it's an almost. That's the most interesting part of this video to me, because otherwise I think Sukuna just grab the Demon Slayer verse by the back of its neck and take it for a walk. Even in character, because of the stat difference and his immunity to their main hacks outside of Gyoko fishing people. That's the only major hacks I can think of the Demon Slayer verse really offering Sukuna. Everything else, they're a little too weak. They're a little too weak, and they don't have the Durinag that a character like Maki does. So like, we'll see. He may say Sukuna's like city level though, and then he gets bombarded by a bunch of town level characters who then eventually wear him down. If he caps Sukuna, why did I say it like that? If he caps Sukuna at city level, then he probably loses. But if Sukuna gets like even mountain, it's too much. It's way too much. But let's see.
The world of Demon Slayer is very cruel and unforgiving, and with Tanjiro and his fellow Slayers facing their hardest challenges yet in the Infinity Castle arc, I thought, why not make their lives even harder and throw Sukuna into the world of Demon Slayer to see how he'd fare. If you watch my previous videos covering Muzan versus Jujutsu Kaisen and the Disaster Curses versus the Upper Moons, you know how the structure of this
and I saw that. So this is gonna be it. Let's see, because I'm watching these. So I'm literally watching these videos. That's funny. I'm watching these videos backwards in the order of the release because I already reviewed this one. I'm currently reacting to this one right here, and then this is the first one he ever dropped. I should have looked at the order and then reacted to them in order, but unfortunately that guy, the reaction just isn't that smart. But let's see.
Discussion will play out. First, I'll give a brief scaling of Sukuna and a few of his most iconic forms to give you a sense for his strength, before following up by pitting him up against the Hashira, and later, the entirety of Demon Slayer.
Oh, if it's just the Hashira, they instantly get wiped. That's actually awful. Why would you do that to the... Ronin, why would you do it to the Hashira? Let's see.
Scaling Sukuna's stats relative to his contemporaries is quite a straightforward endeavor because he is essentially peerless. With the exception of Gojo, Sukuna is far and away the physically fastest and strongest in the verse. This means low-end speed feats like Yuji and Arame reacting to piercing blood, an ability stated to surpass the speed of sound, or casual reactions to gunfire that several sources are able to avoid or directly counter, all link back to and scale to him. This gives him a solid floor, being pretty casually supersonic as he's able to blitz pretty much the entire cast beyond their ability to perceive him, even while being significantly weakened himself after fighting the second strongest sorcerer of all time. In terms of direct high-end calculations, we see Sukuna make a mockery of piercing blood on a couple of occasions, making the attack look like a statue in one instance, and narrowly dodging from point-blank range in another. A pretty consistent ability for top tiers, as Kenjaku performed similarly against Choso in previous chapters. This would place him in a range anywhere from 30 to 60 times the speed of sound in a pretty nerfed state.
And that is very low end. That is kind of low end. I see what he's doing though. He's building up the multiple levels. Let's see. Let's keep going.
Highest you can reasonably place someone like Sukuna is that lightning timer range though, based purely off the fact that he's able to perception blitz characters that should be within the same general range of speed as Akari, who seems to be able to visually register Kashima's lightning strikes, if not completely avoid them outright. With 15 fingers of his power, he completely blitzed Ishigori, who could go blow for blow with Akotsu, who's pretty consistently placed in the same heavy hitter weight class as Akari and Maki. Strength-wise, Sukuna's regular strikes and basic slashes should exist.
Okay, so if it, see that's then it's over. Then it's, see now that makes it even harder, right? That makes it even harder. Well, you know what else makes it harder? I'm gonna be a little better here real quick. I literally, well, no, I won't be super meta. We'll keep that. We'll keep that to myself. We'll keep that, but that'll be between me and editing me. But if we're giving lightning timing, it's over. It's over because then he reacts to everything the Demon Slayer verse has to offer at least somewhat, and then he just diffs them all. Especially the Hashira, they all get dipped by motionless dismantles. But let's see where he says strength wise. This will be the key. If he says city level or up, it's wraps. It's wraps. But let's see.
In the town to large town level range, we see that Arame is able to spawn in massive structures of ice in seconds, and the calculated output.
Well, physically.
Regular strikes and basic slashes should exist in the town to large town level range. We see that Arame is able to spawn in massive structures of ice in seconds, and the calculated output required for this would place them in that town range. Sukuna, for obvious reasons, scales above Arame here. Gojo's unsealing creates an earthquake that can be felt despite him being sealed 8,000 meters below the surface, and I see no reason for Gojo just ascending to go beat Kenjaku would result in consistently greater force in his amplified punches, kicks, and energy blast meant to take down his strongest foe. Sukuna's ultimate move should be in an entirely different echelon.
But the thing is, you mentioned the earthquake, but it didn't count. I think that's another part. I forget what that's been counted to, but that's like also it's above. Like I think that's in the city level stuff. I wouldn't say notably town level for the basic slashes is kind of like it feels like a little bit of a low ball. I take it, like especially if we're using Arame for the basis of that. Well, we know even casual slashes should one tap Arame, right? I don't know. I feel like that's kind of low, but let's see.
And we can say this with a level of certainty because of a statement regarding Jogo's maximum meteor. In the Jujutsu Kaisen foe, Sukuna's ultimate move should be in an entirely different echelon, and we can say this with a level of certainty because of a statement regarding Jogo's maximum meteor. In the Jujutsu Kaisen fanbook, it said that Jogo could vaporize a town and reduce it to ash and cinder. Completely disintegrating a structure this large would actually be a large country-level feat, believe it or not. And not only should Sukuna's fire arrow have a higher ceiling, but it's implied that this attack wouldn't even kill Sukuna, as Jogo would be satisfied with some vague amount of damage, and Sukuna himself confirms this. Destroying a town and getting country levels of strength may seem counterintuitive and downright dumb, but I want you to think about it like this. If I had prime Mike Tyson punch you in the chest, he'd probably shatter your—
I still use the same analogy again in this video. Alright, so, but then, it's over! Okay, now, Ronin, what are you talking about then? What do you mean? So, this was bait. The almost has to be bait. If we're doing that, like, I feel like right now, I literally feel like Bert Holt on wall, whichever wall it was, with Reiner right now, and I'm like looking at Ronin, who's Reiner, is like, are we doing this right now? Like if we're saying country at all, it's over. It's over. It's over. And especially if we're agreeing that this quote unquote country level attack is meant to only partially damage. It's wraps. It's wraps. We gave him lightning. That's the thing, Ronin. It's over. We gave him lightning and we gave him country level. What is this town level verse doing? This at max city level, like I'm talking glazing at max city level verse doing. This lightning timing city level verse is getting annihilated. But he's probably okay. But the thing is though, no, he didn't just say it was the ult. He agreed that Sukuna should be able to tank stuff like that, or at least only take minor damage from it. What is this? The almost is bait. I'm sensing it in the back of my skull. The almost is bait. Let's see.
Your rib cage, and let's be honest, you're gonna go see God. However, just because I throw a punch at you, turn you to dust, and the end result is death.
I love how in all well, at least I've only had 2 so far. In all these scenarios, it's Ronin annihilating us. He doesn't pull out like an anime character. I don't know if Ronin's done a face reveal. I haven't watched Ronin's video in a while because I've been saving them for this reaction channel. But like, I can't imagine like just real life Ronin walking up and just like, United States of smashing somebody out of existence, because he's the one doing this to us. And obviously he just explained the difference, like why I remember, who was I talking to? Someone was asking me, because they were just getting into scaling, and they're like, Pencil, how on earth, sorry, like I'm not sure what my name over here is technically, because like I have that guy with the pencil with the main channel, but people just call me Pencil because I got the pencil, long name. I don't know, I feel like it'd be weird to just call me React, but like, so we'll stick with it, because they were referring to me as Pencil in that moment. They're like, Pencil, how on earth is Frieza destroying planet Vegeta dwarf star level? It's a planet. And I was like, okay, I need you to hear me out. So we know it has 10 times the gravity of Earth, which means it needs to have 10 times the mass of Earth, and Frieza does it in an instant, and he completely atomizes it. There's nothing left. Plus, if you look at the scale of the explosion relative to everything else around it, it's really, really large. So, like, despite it just being planetary destruction, it's actually dwarf star level when you calc it. Just like how, like, the calc of Danafor. Danafor is, like, a city. It's not actually that big. The kingdom of Danafor from Seven Deadly Sins isn't actually that big. But it's calced at like a country level in terms of destruction because of the depths of the hole Meliodas makes and the sheer scale of the attack beyond. So even if he only destroyed like a city-sized kingdom, it didn't matter. It was still country level because of the actual potency required to do something like that. To completely reduce something to nothing. It's why even like the only higher you go than absolute vaporization or atomization is creation. Because creation is literally making something out of nothing, which by all of our laws of physics is literally impossible. So, like, that I agree. Ronan's doing a good example of explaining, hey, here's why the AP is way higher than what the DC actually looks like. Because the DC would just be town level, but the AP is actually crap. It's why, like, but then again, typically we have the issue with the opposite, where people are like, how is God Goku clashing with Beerus Universal? They're just punching things. Their physical DC / AP in that moment, because of the waves, is like the punches themselves are uni because of the force behind it that's causing the shockwaves of DC that will destroy the entire universe, and their punches themselves just scale to that because that's what's causing it. So that's a little bit different, but still, I know what Ron's going for you.
In both instances, doesn't really mean the levels of power generated are the same. It requires exponentially more energy to reduce a structure to ash than it does to merely fragment, level, or vaguely destroy it. And the Jujutsu Kaisen fanbook is pretty specific with its wording here. In any case, Sukuna's maximum durability should be capable of surviving a blow from this attack, although that's likely only something he could achieve by intentionally reinforcing his body with cursed energy and purely focusing on defense, somewhat similar to how he defended against a hollow purple. As a baseline, he should probably exist.
But even still, maybe not. Like, honestly, maybe not. Just because of how much higher purple should scale relative to that maximum meteor. But let's see.
Around those large town levels of durability with no extra conditions.
Wait.
Somewhat similar to how he defended against a hollow purple. As a baseline, he should probably exist around those large town levels of durability with no extra conditions.
I don't think so. See, I don't think that. Now I see why it's an almost. He's gonna argue a speed gap. He's gonna argue, okay, that I disagree with. Sukuna's way beyond town level. Like that. That's not that. Like durability. Like he literally can't be. Like, characters like Yuta and Hikari are literally one tap by casual Gojo punches, and they're not town level. Just once again through upscaling. And Sukuna is able to eat those for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack on the side. If Sukuna can, like, even it, like, notably, we can't have both. We can't say Sukuna focusing on defense is country level, or could survive a country level attack, and then Sukuna's regular durability side. Like the gap between those two levels is actually like, it's like, but then again, it goes into the whole idea of like, this is, yo, we're going down such a rabbit hole here, but hey, it's only a 14-minute video. This won't be too long, I hope. But with it being, I'm sorry, editing me, you're gonna have to work. I already have 2 things you need to cut, and you need to splice 2 videos together. But with it being the case, we're gonna go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here. Black Flash, 2.5 times exponential multiplier. It's not, or at least it can't be, because that would mean every single character in JJK is 2.5 times more durable than they're actually implied to be. If they can take damage from regular attacks, they should be atomized by Black Flashes. That's how it should work. It doesn't work like that. The Black Flash multiplier isn't actually 2.5 times. It can't be. Or exponentially. It can't be. Not at all. But, another case in that, the difference between town level and country level is so large that it's well beyond, like, 1,000 times. That, and I'm literally going on the top of my dome. It could even be like 100,000 times. I want you to, well, no, it has to literally be millions. I want you to think about this. Think of a large town. Just think of a large town. Put it in your head. Put it in your mind. Put it in your mind. Then think of the United States. Yeah. Just think of it. Think how many in fact, and obviously the United States is a large country, so I'll go with a small country first. But I'm gonna do a little experiment real quick. How many towns are inside the United States? I said how many, not what towns. How many towns are in the United States number-wise? There are approximately 19,495 incorporated cities, towns, and villages in the United States. 19,000. And that's assuming that every bit of the United States surface area is covered with a town. That's assuming all of it is. Which we know isn't the case. We know there are massive swaths of the U.S. that technically are towns, as in they're in a town's jurisdiction, but there's nothing actually there. When you think of a town, you think of an area with buildings and people inside of it. There are large swaths of the U.S. that do not have that. But let's even lowball it. Let's lowball it to the moon. Let's say it's a small country. Let's go with something like, what's a nice, good little small country to use? Let's use Djibouti. If you don't know what that is, it's a small country in Africa. How many towns and or villages are in Djibouti, Africa? Okay. So, in the list of localities of Djibouti, in the 2024 census, there are 6 cities and 937 localities. So, lowballing it to Djibouti. We'll say that's what Jogo's Maximum Meteor is capable of destroying. Lowballing it to Djibouti. We have Sukuna being 6 times stronger than large town level. And assuming large town level and city level are even the same, which they aren't. A large city and a large town are very, very different. Think of something like New York City versus like a local large town. Very different. Actually, another multiplier difference. But assuming the 6 large cities are the equivalent of 6 large towns, even being 6 times stronger than town level is way more than what the Demon Slayers can offer. But we're saying that Sukuna could survive something that's country level at all. That he could survive it at all. Which I agree. If we're putting Maximum Meteor at that level. Personally, I think Maximum Meteor is like city level. But if we're taking that data book statement into account and it's been country level, then that's it. To say that Sukuna's average durability sits around like town to large town level, that's absurd. And I think that's a way to bait. That's a way to like give Demon Slayer a chance. But ultimately, I don't think you can have both. That's unlike the last video that I reviewed, which is a video after this where I had like no contentions at all. If we are saying that Sukuna's average durability is around town level, we're doing that to Goon in order to, well, not to Goon. See, this is, I can't say, notably, I'm so used to saying like Goon arguments or Goon scale, but now I know what Goon means to the youth, and now I'm like, I don't want to say Goon. But it feels like we're gooning a little bit just to put Sukuna in a Dura range where Demon Slayer actually stands a chance. When it really shouldn't. Like saying that EOS full power Sukuna is town level normally is absurd. That's absurd. But let's keep it pushing.
In regards to his hacks, Sukuna in most forms is pretty straightforward. He cuts, and he cuts a lot. In his true form, he has the benefit of additional limbs to aid him in combat, a curse tool that generates lightning, and the capacity to use his world-cutting slash, an ability that bypasses all conventional durability. On top of this, he has the ability to heal and is home to some of the greatest healing feats in the verse, not only being able to restore his damaged brain, but in a healthy state would even be able to do so for his soul. His excellent cursed energy control grants him 6 Eyes-esque stamina management, which will definitely make him a hassle to wear down. While in Megami's body, he would possess the 10 Shadows, the most notable Shikigami being Maharaga, with its ability to adapt to any and all phenomena.
Speaking of Maharaga, you throw Maharaga in the Demon Slayer verse and he souls it too. They can't put him down. No one can vaporize Maharaga. Unironically, Maharaga also souls the entire Demon Slayer verse, and Maharaga is still weaker than Sukuna. So like, I need to see why he thinks Demon Slayer why Demon Slayer even survives at all. Other than, like, the lowballing of Sukuna's Dura, which I think is absurd. In fact, I'm going to check something. Something I don't usually check. I haven't done it in a while. People have asked me to make videos on it, but I haven't done it in so long. But let me see. Sukuna versus Battle Wiki. I want to see where they scale his AP in Dura. I don't trust it, but I want to see. Because I feel like town level is absurd. Town level is absurd. I think even they have it higher. And that would be, whenever I go versus Battle Wiki, usually they just downscale everybody. Up, City Block level. City Block level plus. City Block level plus. Attack potency. Oh, well, okay. I'm assuming this is weaker. Sukuna. Attack potency. Town level. Large town level. Oh, never mind. They're at the exact same spot. Alright, never mind. But I don't know. I think that's a low ball too. Because that seems to be full power Sukuna. Unless I'm mistaken. Let me go back and check and see any of the other tabs. Looks like we have to go back to the old video style. Are there any other tabs for Sukuna? Maybe that's it. I need full. Well, I'm not gonna spend too much time looking on there. But yeah, I think saying Sukuna caps at large town level on average is kind of absurd. City level, I can give you as like the low ball. I can give you that. But not town level. But let's keep going. Let's see.
And this would just generally give Sukuna a wider array of abilities and ways to attack the Demon Slayer universe. His ace on the whole in any body is the combination of Malevolent Shrine and Fuga being used in tandem, which is sure to incinerate anyone that his slashes can. With all that being said, Sukuna's performance against the Hashira, while equally dominant to Muzan's, most likely plays out a bit differently for a few reasons. The first and most prominent is speed. While Sukuna is pretty generously faster than lightning if you interpret a few moments with a bit of goodwill, the same can be said for the Hashira even before they grow over the course of Infinity Castle. Kanroji is able to evade multiple lightning strikes, not only being one of the weaker Hashira herself, but also accomplishing this before the mark training and in-battle amps received by pretty much every character we're discussing right now. They've also demonstrated the ability to fight against characters significantly faster than themselves by relying on their own instincts and a little bit of luck, which does mean that Sukuna is unlikely to blitz or overwhelm them all through sheer speed like Muzan was capable of.
The only thing is, though, if the thing is, if we're being generous to Hikari and to Maki, and what was the other third one? I think he showed the Toji clip, but I didn't really talk about the Toji clip. Then, ultimately, Sukuna would be Muzaning them, right? Because if they're relative, like, notably, my big thing is, you can't really prove that the Demon Slayers got multiple times faster and stronger. They got stronger, but not like, well, I mean, you actually know, because of the Muzan fight, you can make the arguments they got whole Blitz tier stronger because of like how Kokushibo interacts with Akaza and how Akaza should interact with like Hantengo and stuff like that because of the upper Muzan. So like you can definitely make arguments. I can see it. Because notably, you would have to make higher arguments for Sukuna's speed, like the EM wave stuff, which I don't personally agree with. And or you'd have to do like the Blitz stacking, which is feasible, right? Like notably, Maki reacts to lightning. Or Toji reacts to lightning in the anime, which then Maki is equal to Toji, and then Maki gets blitzed by a severely weakened Sukuna, right? So, like, realistically, he should be a blitz 2 or a tier above lightning. And also Maki just reacts to lightning herself in the manga. If you don't want to use the anime feat, she reacts to Nue's lightning in the manga. In the redraw for volume 17, I think. So, like, there's that. But also, there's the Hikari feat, if you want to grant that as lightning feat. Personally, I kind of don't, actually, but if we do. That's the thing. You can't really give the top tiers any sort of reaction speed when we know all the top tiers get viciously blitzed by Sukuna. And then say that the Hashira be able to really keep up with. So, or like, notably, I agree in the idea that they'd probably be relative, but I would say Sukuna's more Muzoning them than he is actually going even with them, though. Just because of like how high, like how like the levels of assertion you can put Sukuna's speeds at relative to the people in JJK who do have any sort of lightning interaction is so much higher that he is more Muzan than he is Hashira level, at least in my opinion. Mainly because I think it's kind of hard to argue how much faster is someone like Yome than a Mitsuri? How much faster is someone like a Sanemi or Tanjiro? Like how much faster are they? I don't think they're so much faster that they would just blitz Sukuna to the moon and back. And once again, the big issue for the Hashira in particular is their AP, right? So even let's grant it, right? Let's grant. But then again, if he's gonna say they have large town level AP and Sukuna's durability caps at large town level, but that's the thing. I disagree with that too. So I'm running into some disagreements, but I can see the argument what he means, right? If we go with the idea that they just kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and Muzan's the strongest team they've ever seen, if the Hashira are able to someone keep up while heavily fatigued and stuff like that, realistically, I can see the vision. Now that I'm thinking about it more and more, I see the vision. But I think he's lowballing Sukuna's Dura. So that's my main issue. I think he's lowballing Sukuna's Dura. And notably, I think the big issue is if Sukuna's actually getting jumped by all the Hashira, he's motionless dismantle spamming all of them, and they can't regen. So I think, once again, the humans kind of all die anyway. They don't have a way to instantly put down Sukuna, at least not in my opinion, but let's see what he says.
Their vaguely town-level striking ability also means that the mid to high-tier Hashira should be capable of damaging Sukuna with their attacks. These facts, combined with the knowledge that the Hashira are elite swordsmen capable of fighting alongside each other with great proficiency, means that Sukuna would not exactly have an easy go of things. Where problem starts to arise, however, is with Sukuna's curse technique. Of the Hashira, you could argue that Gyu and Gyome would have something in their arsenal that would allow them to detect or disperse large portions of the damage that comes with an armada of slashes.
But the thing is, they wouldn't be able to, well, they would be able to, Gyu in particular would be able to react, and Gyome would be able to react to some. But the issue is there'd be so many. There'd be so many all at once, coming at different angles, and they all, like, would peak out. Like, so, once again, going with the idea that Demon Slayers do have, like, that town level AP, and we're going to assume that slashes are town level. We'll go with that. They wouldn't be able to react to them all or block them efficiently, and notably, they would probably destroy their weapons. Like, notably, we saw that if one of their blades gets hit, or maybe not Gyome's weapon, but like for Gyu's sword, it got hit the wrong way by Akaza just punching at it. Clearly not Akaza punching at full strength either. He just weaved and he cracked the blade. I think a lot of the Demon Slayers will literally lose their weapons and limbs and lives because Sukuna can throw out those AoE style slashes. Like, what do the Hashira do if they get Kashi mode? If Sukuna nets at them, they die. Right? Like I don't think they're surviving that. But that's because I have a higher estimation of his AP. Maybe they live it, but they take so much damage that doesn't really matter. Let's see.
But even that is a bit dubious, as characters within JJK with extra sensory abilities like the Six Eyes seemingly still can't perceive Sukuna's attacks. Inosuke and Gyome...
In their defense, though, you can make an argument that Gojo can see him anyway. He just wasn't sure what it was doing because it went to the building to an architectural attack. And Maki and Toji can see them, so can Mahoraga. So, like, maybe you argue that the Demon Slayers have extra sensory abilities on those levels of the Maki and Tojis. Maybe. You can argue it.
Gyome's detection of ill intent, Gyu's 11th water form, and Tanjiro's enhanced sense of smell, as well as the see-through world, might give them a leg up in evading Sukuna's slashes, but everyone outside of this is getting torn to shreds by attacks that exceed their durability and would mitigate their battle power consistently. We see in Demon Slayer that the loss of a limb can take a Hashira level combatant out of that tier entirely, and since none of these characters possess any kind of healing factor, they'd just be fighting an ever-losing battle. One could argue that the see-through world would allow for the slashes to be perceptible, but this is such an inconsistent technique for the Hashira to tap into.
And also, the see-through world wouldn't work against the slashes because the see-through world requires that there be something to see. The slashes are invisible. Like, they don't have a body. Like, they'd see Sukuna maybe making the motions for him, but Sukuna can do them motionlessly. And you'll note that the see-through world doesn't give the Slayers access. Like, unless I misremember. I need to look at the Upper Moon 1 fight when Gyome gets it, which is even funny because he can't see. But I don't think they'd be able to see something that just isn't there. Right? Like, if the slashes doesn't, like, exist until it does, and then it's traveling, but it's invisible. Like, I'm not even sure if the see-through world would help. Because, like, what is it going to tell them? Okay, slash still coming at me. What do you do? I mean, I guess they could dodge, but still, the net. But then again, Sukuna doesn't do that in character consistently. Not enough. Let's see.
side of Tanjiro that it wouldn't do much but delay the inevitable. In contrast, Sukuna can take on loads and loads of damage and just pretend it never happened with reverse curse technique, but the Hashira will continuously weaken and die off, only making his job easier. This is ignoring his higher tier techniques like his domain and fire arrow, which would immediately one-shot any character they came into contact with. And due to his domain targeting inanimate objects as well, even if you do make the point that the Hashira would possess no cursed energy, it wouldn't matter as the slashes would come for them all the same. The Slayers could potentially defeat Sukuna if a coordinated blitz attempt to decapitate him occurs before he starts sending out slashes, which would technically be possible due to their speed advantages, but it's kind of unlikely due to Sukuna being more durable than any individual Hashira's attack potency.
And also the big issue is that Sukuna has a precog of his own, right? Like this is commonly forgotten about, but like Sukuna has precog. So it's not just that he has relative speed to them, pretty arguably. You can once again, I even say that Sukuna's probably faster than most of the Hashira, but like even assuming the relativity, he has precog on top of that lightning level ability. So he has lightning timing, then he has precog on top of that. He's gonna send Small going for his head. And notably, the big thing that he hasn't really mentioned yet is that Sukuna doesn't even need to move to left the slashes. He literally, like, remember against Kusakabe when he was messing around, he literally let out a slash with no motion. If Kusakabe didn't have the auto react of his symbol domain working for him, he would have instantly died. And that same thing happens to all the Hashira. They all go in for one blitz attempt. Sukuna stands there and just flexes. Remember, especially it's even worse in the anime, where Sukuna even uses his slashes essentially as like an infinity of his own, where Jogo literally swallows him in lava, but the lava all gets blown away because of the slashes. Blitzing.
And it's not exactly being an in-character strike attempt from them. His laid-back attitude could allow for this to happen 1, maybe 2 times out of 10 if you beam knowledge of the fight beforehand into all of the Hashira's brains, but I just don't see it being a very likely occurrence when he's capable of just decimating them with attacks a majority of them can't even perceive. And aside from that strategy, no one really has a way to put him in the ground for good here. Even something more roundabout like Shinobu's poison wouldn't work due to it being specifically made to counter demons. And even if this wasn't the case, the king of toxins and top tier RCT user should have no trouble neutralizing its poisonous.
Yeah, it literally wouldn't affect him. Shinobu's poison and the demon's poison I still don't think would affect him. Like, the only like poison argument I could see making is like if Muzan gets his blood in Sukuna and then starts manipulating it. But even then, we know Sukuna should be a skilled enough RCT user to literally expel from his body. Or even, we've seen Sukuna be more than one. Like, say Muzan stabs into Sukuna's arm, gets his blood in there. Sukuna feeling it, starting to mess with him, has shown the capacity and willingness to cut off his own limbs and then just pop it right back out. So it wouldn't really matter. Let's see.
Effects. So it's clear that the Hashira alone aren't enough to get the job done. With no hope of stalling until the sun comes up, the inability to kill him with poison, and his specific combination of hacks, fighting style, and attack potency, it doesn't look too good for them. But what about the demons of the Demon Slayer universe? While their sets shouldn't be significantly greater than that of the Hashira, they do have unique advantages that the humans aren't able to tap into.
And
the
stamina.
Greatest being their regenerative factors and infinite stamina. With both of these on their side,
not infinite stamina though. Notably, we've seen, I have to mention this every once in a while. Notably, I know, and Ronin knows this, but in the context of most cross verse, you don't really cover it. You don't go into the super specific, especially when you're doing like a verse versus a single character. Trust me, I know they're very fun to write, I promise, and extra fun to edit. I extra promise that. But we know the demons can get tired. Kokushibo literally runs out of energy to regenerate. The reason he dies is because he burnt through all his energy. A more specific example that you may actually remember is Hantengu. Hantengu literally verbally mentions, I'm running out of energy, I need to go eat somebody. Muzan, it runs out of it. I think he starts to run out of energy, but that's due to the aging and stuff like that. So that's not necessarily fair. So he's getting older and getting tired as he's getting older, so that doesn't really count. But then we've seen demons, they can run out of energy if they're being assailed enough and being forced to regen enough. So I do think that technically someone like Sukuna, as long as Sukuna could be standing there and just consistently releasing dismantles, and they're going to eventually lose. Because his dismantles would ward off any of their attacks and prevent any of them from getting close, and eventually they would be torn through. Even characters like Akaza wouldn't be able to react fully to the dismantle net. If it's fine enough, it would still cut through him eventually. He couldn't dodge the entire net. But that's if Sukuna nets. That's the thing. And that's why I think the almost notably, he brought up the way Demon Slayer almost gets a chance against Sukuna by mentioning his in-character nature. If Sukuna makes stupid mistakes in characters and get fished, Like, he lost in the main universe, like I said all the way back at the start of this video. Then he does sell the bag. Then he does fumble. Then he's cooked. But if he does not fundamentally sell the bag, like, Sukuna should win. Even in character, Sukuna realistically should win. Because the Demon Slayer universe struggles to have a win cut against him that's not named Gyoko. The only character in the verse who has a transmutation hack that should bypass Sukuna's durability. Even Muzan wouldn't be that effective, which sounds crazy to say, but he'd just be really annoying. He would have to be furnace, right? I don't think any of Sukuna's regular slashes or even like a world cutting slash, I don't think it'd do enough to Muzan. He would have to stall out till the sun rises or furnace him to just completely evaporate Muzan. But let's see.
Even without the ability to perceive Sukuna's slashes, higher-ranking demons should be capable of putting up a better fight against him. Certain demons like Enmu, Gyoko, and Nakime have blood demon arts with properties that could give Sukuna some trouble as well. Much more than any individual breathing style has.
I think Enmu would be an interesting one, mainly because, like, the gas, but even then, that would have to get close enough for Sukuna to inhale. Like, Enmu would have to be in Sukuna's face, and I don't think Sukuna's letting any of them get that close. Because the issue is we know that Sukuna fights differently depending on what's happening to him, right? We see in a 1v1, he's definitely a lot more experimental, but whenever he's being ganked, he's very quick to, like, take certain people out of fights. We see this when everyone first jumps him in Shibuya or in Shinjuku. He very specifically goes after Choso, takes him out. Then he grabs Hikaru and he separates him. So, like, he's very fast to narrow down a 1v1. And when he's being super ganked, we only have one example of this. In the Heian era, back when he was being super ganked, he literally just spammed technique. Like, he spammed Kamutoke and was vaporizing entire legions of sorcerers. So the issue with the entire verse jumping him is that Sukuna will likely, he's not going to be as playful, and he's going to immediately in character go for large swaths of slashes, which is going to take out all the humans, and it's going to force the demons to regen. And while the regen is quick, if whole sections of their body, like if demons are getting decapitated, if they're losing whole lower sections of their body and torso, if they're literally falling apart, it's going to take enough time that Sukuna sends out another wave of slashes and another wave of slashes and another wave of slashes, and there's no cooldown. So I think a Sukuna trying to win at all wipes them. But he's going to run into an issue when the demons keep getting back up, and then he's going to furnace them. And notably, since Furnace can cover up to 200 meters of area, even with everybody in one spot, 200 meters is big enough. It's about a fifth of a kilometer that everyone would get caught. Everyone would get caught and everyone would die to Furnace. But let's see.
Capacity to. Enmu, for example, would be able to place Sukuna in a dreamlike state, leaving his subconscious vulnerable to destruction, as well as physical body at the mercy of all the other demons. The only issue with this is that
okay. So see, he immediately went into. I was about to say, I don't think this should work, but he'll cover it. I think Enmu wouldn't even be able to manipulate Sukuna's subconscious or soul because he has strong resistance to that. Let's see.
High tolerance for attacks that attempt to affect his mental or spiritual state, as Mahito's idol transfiguration is able to be countered by Sukuna's mere presence. He also doesn't have the sentimentality necessary to make him refrain from offing himself in an obvious dream sequence and just return to the fight. Gyoko has a myriad of poisons and toxins that should be more...
Poisons wouldn't work, but Gyoko's fish, the fish in them, like, that's actually devious. That's actually dangerous. Fun fact, in a video that I'm never sure if I'm ever gonna release, because it'll take so long to record and edit and everything. I don't want to do it, but I'm gonna muster up the nerve one day. In Red Demon versus Demon Slayer, Red Demon from Seven Deadly Sins versus Demon Slayer the verse, the only win con that the verse has is Gyoko. And Gyoko is usually the only win con that the Upper Moons or the verse has against a lot of stronger verses, because very few verses have explicit resistance to transmutation like Gyoko does. Mahito's transmutation is soul manipulation, so you could argue that Sukuna would have resistance to that because we've seen him resist transfiguration. Gyoko's transmutation is just turning your biology into fish. Like, it just changes your chemical structure. And I'm not sure if Sukuna's shown resistance to that. So, the fish, being fished, that could actually work. The poison output wouldn't work at all. Let's see.
Applicable to Sukuna here than the Wisteria poison, but his RCT should be more than capable of handling it, and his proficiency with cursed energy guarantees his energy.
Also, he's just immune to poison. At least that's what he showed the power. He's just immune to poison. Let's see.
Will remain even if he's running it continuously. Honestly, the most aggravating demon to fight would probably be Nakime, simply because her creation and manipulation of the Infinity Castle would interfere in Sukuna's efforts to slaughter them all, and also protect them from the light of the sun. He could get around this by sending slashes she can't perceive, or potentially even bring her into a clash of domains, separating her from everyone else on the battlefield.
Notably, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't isolate himself with Nakime. What he would do, though, like, the reason I say is because we know his domain is open, right? So it wouldn't really matter. The issue is that Nakime's construct shouldn't be able to resist just a barrage of... Once again, it keeps going back to the big net, where, like, Nakime can try and move everybody in time, but not only, you could argue she wouldn't be fast enough to move everybody in time, but also Sukuna himself is more than capable of moving in midair. So like the panel or the scene he showed earlier where all the Hashira fell into the Infinity Castle, Sukuna only goes there if he wants to. Because if Nakime tries to do that, Sukuna would look down, see that there's a giant castle beneath him, and then just leap up and leave. Or he destroys everything, right? Like, he just sends out a wave of slashes, destroys the entire Infinity Castle, like we saw it get destroyed at the end of the Infinity Castle arc, and then they're back on the surface. So, like, Nakime is annoying at first, but Sukuna has so many readily available counters to her, and would probably, if anything, be a bit worried about entering somebody else's domain, quote-unquote, that he may, like Ronin says here, he may either instantly domain himself, which would be bad for everybody, because then everyone dies, or he just destroys everything in another net, or just consistent motionless dismantles from his body. That's it.
But she's an annoying combatant nonetheless. I mentioned these three characters despite their lackluster physical showings because their unique abilities present much more of an issue than pretty straightforward fighters like Akaza, Doma, and Kokushibo.
And this is what I covered earlier, the idea of stat boxes. Ultimately, as powerful as the other three are, if you outstat them, and if you can also fill the screen with nonsense, or the nonsense they do doesn't matter, they don't matter. It's why I as much glaze as I do have for the Espada, and I think the Espada are very powerful, I think they kind of suffer as a group because they aren't hacks boxes. They don't have super unique properties, especially if you equivalize like versions of like that. And notably, I even have this critique for Organization 13 for a while, a long time, like 5 years ago now. I made a video talking about Organization 13 versus the Akatsuki, and like I think Organization 13 is a very, very broken thing. Organization 13 from Kingdom Hearts. But one critique I have for Organization 13 is that they don't really have super hacks once you equalize them, right? You could make an argument they're non-existent, so you need to have like non-existence interaction in order to even damage them. But if you remove that, like you would remove most characters not being able to interact with Bleach characters because they're all souls and not every verse has like consistent soul interaction, then if you outstat Org 13, which is very difficult to do admittedly, but if you do outstat them, you beat them. They don't have really many hacks. Same thing with the I literally just said it with the Espada. But if you look at something like the Vandenreich or the Sternritter, essentially not the Vandenreich as a whole, but the Sternritter from Bleach, they are annoyingly hacked out. Like dumb stupid hacked out. Like dumb stupid, like so many stupid hacks. They're a really good group to throw against other verses because they have dumb, stupid hacks numbers. The Seven Deadly Sins, they are also a group that is a lot of like, a lot of stat boxes, but also dumb, stupid hacks out into like a group battle. The Upper Moons, not really. They're all 6 of them, except for Gyoko, are hacks box or are stat boxes, and stat boxes are useful until they get outstatted. So yeah, I think the Upper Moons would be actually pretty useful. The top 3 Upper Moons, Hantengu, and even Gyutaro and Daki, they'd be useless against Sukuna, because I think they get outstatted. But let's see.
Despite these 3 being the most powerful Upper Moons, even with the limitation of not being able to kill them without a Nichiren Blade or with the Sun, the Domain plus Fire Arrow combo should be able to solve that problem, as it allows them to bypass the need for either of these by completely annihilating the demons in one shot. Things become even easier if we're talking about a version of Sukuna who has Mahoraga in tow, as this would allow him to develop Nichiren-like properties over time that can permanently put these demons down. The only character who I can feasibly see defeating Sukuna is Yoriichi. I go into depth on how I see a Sukuna and Muzan showdown playing out in this video, so I won't go into too much depth.
I'll cover that too. I saw that. I thought that was gonna be part of this video. All right, I'll go and cover that separately too, because I still think Sukuna does win. Let's see.
On it here, but even if you assume Sukuna is a step above that level, it doesn't immediately place him above the greatest demon slayer of all time. Constant use of the see-through world, seemingly boundless stamina, enough power to casually chop off Muzan's head, and speed that overshadows everything else in the verse, Yoriichi is by far the greatest opponent that Sukuna could face within this universe. Let me give you a bit of perspective here if you're not sold yet. Sukuna's speed feats would place him on a level comparable to Kanroji before getting a training power up.
But that's wrong. See that this is where I'm reaching, just as Broken Ronin manifested before me, punched me in the ribs after Prime Mike Tyson did, and atomized my entire body. I'm going to teleport in and then re-atomize him back. I don't know how I came back. I'm just immortal too, I guess. But this is wrong. Hakari's feet here, if you interpret it this way, puts him on the same level as Kanroji. Maki's feet put him on the same level as Kanroji. Toji's feet in the anime actually puts him above Kanroji because the lightning was moving in slow motion. But the difference between Sukuna and them is that he's literal multiple blitz tiers above them. Like, casually multiple blitz tiers above them. We see Akari get blitzed by Urume. Are we going to say Urume and Sukuna are in the same speed tier? I wouldn't say that. So, Kashimo literally gets outpaced and blitzed by Sukuna's attacks. While in NBA, mind you, not even talk about just base Kashimo, who should be relative to Jackpot Akari. So, we're going to say they're in the same speed tier? So, like, these are my little disagreements. If we're gonna grant Sukuna lightning time, he's high into it, just like Muzan and Yoriichi. You could definitely argue Yoriichi is higher on in terms of like the levels upon levels upon levels. I can agree though that Yoriichi would likely be higher into the assertions, right? Because if we use Kanroji as the basis, we assume all the Hashira relative, then we put some demons above, then we put Muzan above, then we put Yoriichi above. That's like 4 levels of assertion, right? So I can give that. Because realistically, you'd have to argue the levels of assertion versus the gap of assertion, right? Because it's Hakari and Kashimo being lightning timers, then it's Urume being able to blitz that Hakari and slash Maki both. Like, if you want to really do that, but I don't like the Maki beat, but like still you can do that. Then it's Gojo being an entire blitz tier above Urume, and then it's Sukuna being relative to Gojo. So, like, even in terms of levels of assertion, you can definitely get Yoriichi higher. So I can lean with that. I can rock with that. But then we run into the AP issue. And I don't think the AP stacks up for Yoriichi. I think he bounces off of Sukuna more often. But then again, I have Sukuna at way higher than town levels of durability. I don't know, at bare minimum city level, which I don't think you can improve Yoriichi skills to. Especially considering he himself admits that he could die in one hit from Muzan if he gets hit. He's just that much faster, but he does have the AP in his blade sharpness. So ultimately, I see what Ronin means, but I'd still say that Yoriichi loses. Especially considering Sukuna's fighting the verse here. He's not 1v1ing Yoriichi, where maybe in a 1v1 he'd be stupid enough to let Yoriichi get close enough to decapitate him. I think in a verse scenario, Sukuna's likely domaining or throwing out slashes en masse, and as good as Yoriichi's reaction speed is, we know he wasn't even able to catch all the pieces of Muzan. I think it numbered to like 200 pieces, and he caught about 80, right? Let me see. I think he even shows the panel. No, wait, whoa. That down 80. I was so wrong on that. But of the 1,800 scattered pieces, he cut 1,500 of them. But notably, those are just scattered pieces of flesh that he could already cut through. If Sukuna throws a net at Yoriichi or is constantly releasing motionless dismantles, Yoriichi's not blocking all of those. His sword is breaking and then he's breaking. As he's blocking some slashes, his legs are getting blown apart. So, like, I don't even think Yoriichi's calm. But then again, that's if Sukuna is doing super optimal or is fighting the entire verse at once and is going for a domain scenario or massive nets. That's it. But let's see.
Kanroji isn't able to react to attacks that higher level Hashira like Guillaume can. Guillaume can get perception blitzed by Kokushibo. Muzan is incomparably stronger, faster, more durable, and overall more dangerous combatant than any of his upper moons. And Yoriichi perception blitzed and bullied Muzan to the point of having PTSD that spanned centuries.
Yep.
Neither Sukuna nor his slashes have any hope of landing outside of a domain expansion here. The gap in speed is
But individually, I agree, but once again, what about the entire net? What about a massive rank? Like, we've seen Sukuna do, especially if we're using anime, right? But then again, anime is different from the manga. Like, you definitely argue, like, anime JJK and manga JJK, 2 entirely different verses. I don't even blame people for, like, separating the 2. But even manga-wise, we've seen Sukuna make just a whole impassable wall of nonsense. Yoriichi can't deal with that. But and in the end, Sukuna always has domain, so it really doesn't matter. But let's see.
Astronomical. It's even hard to wrap my head around as someone who has the knowledge on this. And I'm truly.
But even then, I do like Road. I think a little bit of downplay of Sukuna's speed. I'm not even talking the EM wave stuff, because I disagree with the EM wave stuff. In fact, you're looking at a guy who isn't even fully convinced on the lightning timing stuff. But going with the idea that we're granting lightning timing, if we're gonna do like we said here, we did the multiple layers of assertion with this, right? And I agree with the multiple layers of assertion, right? I see the vision. Even though Guillaume does go on to react to Kokushibo longsword after this, but you know, mid-battle amps, so it's fine. We're essentially, Ronin, what you're trying to tell me, and I get it. Once again, we want to make this more comp for Demon Slayer. What you're trying to tell me is that Sukuna, speed-wise, and his slashes, which are slower than him, but are still faster and more than fast enough to blitz most characters. You're trying to tell me that Sukuna and his slashes are on the same level as Jackpot Akari and base Kashimo. And we know that's not true. You can even argue that something like NBA has a 5 times multiplier, and Sukuna is still easily able to keep up with that. So, like, even with the layers of assertion that I do agree with, there are layers of assertion that Sukuna has above the lightning timing stuff that realistically, even if I do agree that Yoriichi would probably still end up faster, he's not perception blitzing Sukuna. I don't even think that's the case. I really don't, personally. But let's see. Oh no, did I mute it? I muted it. Whoops.
Neither Sukuna nor his slashes have any hope of landing outside of a domain expansion here. The gap in speed is astronomical. It's even hard to wrap my head around as someone who has the knowledge on this. And I'm truly inclined to believe that Yoriichi would be capable of severing Sukuna's head from his body before he's able to make an offensive move. And due to Yoriichi's somewhat stoic nature, I even see this being the most likely option for him. The gap in strength, and most importantly, gap in speed, is that great. Now, don't get me wrong.
I disagree with that, though. Especially the big thing that Ronin didn't prove for something like that. Especially since he gave the idea earlier. Once you mention the Jogo stuff, you can't say anything about town level. That's my big point from earlier, and that's a big point I'm going to come back to now. Especially since we're agreeing, if we're applying that, if we're tickling town level talks, which I think we're still lowballing, but we're tickling town level talks, but then we're mentioning country level stuff. Anywhere in between that range, you can't prove Yoriichi's that strong. You can't. Realistically, you just can't. You cannot prove that Yoriichi could decapitate someone who's country level or could survive a country level attack. You cannot do that. And I feel like with us only being 2 minutes left into the video, I think Roda's not talking about that because he knows it's true, right? You can't bring up that Sukuna possibly has country levels of Dura and then not mention it ever again. Especially if we're going with the idea that Sukuna is fighting the verse. Not only would he probably instantly go for a domain expansion anyway, just because he's being ganked, but also if he has mountain level Dura, Yoriichi's not decapitating him. That's the thing. I think it's a little bit absurd. So I disagree. If he's gonna say Sukuna loses, I disagree if that's the verdict. But let's see.
Dismantle, cleave, world cutting slash, domain expansion, fire arrow. If any of these things land, they pretty much spell instant defeat for Yoriichi, but that's only if it hits. The longer the battle goes on, the greater chance Sukuna has of pouring his energy into his defenses and domain to shred Yoriichi. But whoever makes the first major move wins, and Yoriichi can make a dozen different slashes before Sukuna even recognizes what's going on. The only way you can argue Sukuna survives an encounter with the greatest Demon Slayer is if his durability more casually sits at those country levels of strength required to not instantly perish from Jogo's max meteor.
But see, that's the thing. You don't even have to say it's country level, right? Assuming we go with the idea that Sukuna needs to pour all his energy into defense, which I personally disagree with, right? I think he could just eat. He would take damage from Active Meteor, but I don't think he'd die from it, right? I think he'd just eat it. Just like he ate Hollow Purple. I genuinely think that even if he sits at mountain level Dura consistently, but he can amp his Dura all the way up to country level, which I still think would be crazy. I think he would just sit at country level. Like, that's kind of just how the scaling would go. But regardless, you cannot prove Yoriichi's mountain level. You cannot prove Yoriichi's island level. You can't prove Yoriichi's, like, multi-mountain level or multi-island level. Not to talk of country. Like, once again, Demon Slayer is a verse that struggles to get past city level. I've never, and I mean never, seen a single mountain level calc for Demon Slayer. Because it doesn't exist. It's fine. The verse is weak. Physically. Very, very fast verse, but not the strongest physically. So to assume that even its strongest character, which I agree Yoriichi's the strongest character in Demon Slayer, to assume that he could cut down a country level character or even a mountain level character is absurd. Yoriichi clanks off of Sukuna and dies. Not immediately. Sukuna would have to throw a net. I agree. A regular single dismantle probably wouldn't hit Yoriichi. He wouldn't be able to tell what's happening. He'd probably maybe be able to tell what's happening, but he wouldn't be able to consistently tell what's happening. But a single slash, 2 slashes, 3 slashes, 4, Yoriichi's surviving, and many more. But a net, Yoriichi's dying to. A domain, Yoriichi's dying to. Like, that's the thing. I don't know, man. Especially in the verse jumping scenario, Yoriichi actually gets weighed down by the rest of the verse because Sukuna would then immediately domain. But then again, Yoriichi's a human. That's the thing. He doesn't have hacks. He just has speed and AP. But I don't think his AP is high enough. He dies. So I disagree with Ronin on the Yoriichi stuff. I don't know. I'm not rocking with that. Let's see.
No Demon Slayer character, Yoriichi included, has demonstrated AP feats anywhere near this tier of strength, which would prevent Sukuna's head from flying in the initial rush. and allow for time to open his domain. Personally, I think this is only a level of durability that intentional reinforcement can achieve, something that Sukuna would have to put his conscious effort in doing, which wouldn't happen before the Blitz. Depending on your interpretation.
But here's my thing, Ronin. Especially since we are talking about levels interpretation and sheer gaps. You mean to tell me, like, in fact, I'm almost, you know what? I got time today. Those videos are over an hour long. I don't want to be too much longer than an hour. But I got time today. Let me go to AP versus Battle Wiki. Because they have the numbers. Attack potency, perfect. So let me see. So we'll be generous. We'll say Yoriichi's city level, right? Because he should scale well above the large town level. There is already, let me see. In fact, let me take a look. Let me go back. High to low in ratio. All right. So we'll put Yoriichi on the high end of city level because he should be drastically beyond the mostly large town level verse, right? So city level is 4.184 times 10 to the 17 joules, or 100 megatons. 100 megatons is the high end for city level, right? And we'll say that Sukuna sits at 1 megaton, or large town level, right? We're going with Ronin's logic. Then, going up to country level, 100 teratons. Now, you mean to tell me that you think characters like Sukuna can multiply, just by focusing on his Dura, Sukuna can multiply his... Googler work! Googler work! Oh, my Googler's fighting back. But, essentially, even assuming it's just 100 times, which is not, right? The difference between a megaton and... What is it? The difference between a megaton and a teraton... In fact, we'll do it. Let's just do it. We'll do... Let's see. We'll say the lowest ever country level is what? 1 teraton? 7 teratons. So, how many teratons... No. How many megatons are in a teraton? Let's see. There are 1,000 megatons in a teraton, right? And assuming Sukuna sits at 1 megaton, which is the peak of large town level normally. Ronin, you mean to tell me we're going to go with the highest bit of large town to the lowest bit of country, 7 teratons. So if the highest of large town is 1 megaton, and we know there are 1,000 megatons and 1 teraton, you mean to tell me you think Sukuna can multiply his durability 7,000 times over? 7,000 times over? That sounds like nonsense to me. I don't think that I think that makes no sense. I think it makes more sense that Sukuna could sit at country level, though, based on everything else he's done and upscaling from Jogo. I think that makes more sense. And even if I wouldn't say Sukuna sits at town and then leaps up the country level, I'd say Sukuna sits at maybe island and then leaps up the country level, even though the gap between those two are in the thousands of times too. So I don't know. I disagree with this and that idea. I disagree with the idea. If Sukuna's country level, he's country level. If you don't want to say Sukuna's country level, you want to peak him at city level or town level, keep him there. Don't bring up the Jogo stuff. Don't do that. Just don't do it. Don't even touch it. Even though it's there and you have to touch it because obviously, Ronin's just covering it. But like that doesn't make sense. That's my only issue. It seems like once again, it seems like we're almost desperate to give Demon Slayer some sort of win. When realistically they shouldn't have one outside of Gyoko Fish and Sukuna. So like, but I think he's gonna in the end say that Sukuna wins anyway. So it's all fine.
Of certain feats and statements, though, this fight would either end in an instant or result in even the most blessed character in the entire Demon Slayer story falling to Malevolent Shrine. Sukuna comes extremely close, dominating and countering pretty much every character in the entire story with his arsenal and lethal domain unambiguously. But Demon Slayer's pinnacle of power prevents that from happening just barely, at least making it a point of contention. If you're curious to see how Muzan did against the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, or want to see the Disaster Curses face off against the Upper Moons, you can check out these videos. And
I'll have to cover this one. I think Sukuna wins, though, and if it looks like Ronin thinks Sukuna wins, though, too. So I'll cover that one. But I'm going to record this one next. It looks like we're just going to keep going backwards. I think this one came out after this one. But overall, I'm still, don't worry. Still definitely gonna let the video play out after I'm done with my outro. But I disagree with the supposed range of Sukuna's durability. I can agree with the speed gap. I can agree with the levels of assertion behind the speed gap for Yoriichi. I can agree with the even levels of assertion of Yoriichi's AP versus the rest of the versus AP. I can agree with all that. I cannot agree that a character can go from large town level to country level in an instant. That I can't agree with. I don't think Demon Slayer stands a chance against Sukuna. I think he's too bulky. I think he's just fast enough. And I think he has the perfect hard counter to them in his technique, plus the AP behind his technique, plus especially domain expansion. I don't even think Yoriichi's enough. But as Ronin says, it's a contention. It's like you can make the argument that Yoriichi does something, even though I personally disagree. So overall, still an amazing video. I agree with most of the scaling. The only thing I'm iffy on is like large town level to country level. Like, I don't know, even to me saying something like large town level to city level, that's still a massive gap too. Like, that's still very, very different. Not talk of large town versus country. Like just go with my earlier examples that I did earlier when I looked up the amount of cities that are in a country. The smallest country I could think of on the top of my known piece, and one of the larger countries I could think of. But there's that. If you've been all the way in this video, please do me a favor and leave the new Demon King. Why not? Because I suppose that's what Sukuna would be. The new Demon King in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that notifications will see you not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you can have a page down below where you support me for as low as $1 things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member to the main channel, that guy with a pencil, in order to get early access to all videos over here on this channel, early perks, any sort of direct requests and stuff like that. You can get all that to becoming a member on the main channel. Early access to all these videos. Like I said in the previous video that ended up being recorded, I'm going to try and do a whole bunch of pre-recording for this channel. I want to have a whole bunch of videos ready because these drop once a week on Saturday. So I want to have as much early content for you guys as possible. If you want to become a member over the main channel, become a patron, the link will be in the description down below. You can also drop a one-time donation, $5 for a short video, $25 for a long video in the Ko-Fi, also link in the description down below. And also I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, cutting off.